Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to day 2 of season 2 of the AMX Global Series. My name is Reed, and I'm here, of course, with Marco for our second day of races. It's supposed to be a pretty exciting day. How are you feeling, Marco?
Excited to be here for this race at Zolder, Porsche Cup cars. It's a match made in heaven, difficult braking areas, a car that has no sorts of electronic aids with no ABS, no traction control, and an old school racetrack. So it's going to be fantastic.
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that, Marco. Immediately following that, we're going to have British cars on British tracks, Radical SR8s out on Oulton Park. So just to remind you by way of announcement, this is the beta season 2. This is our free race, and then, of course, we'll be having a paid race immediately after that. We'll give you more information about that in just a second. But, of course, keep in mind you can sign up anytime at amxrace.com. And, of course, this is what our races will look like today. We're gonna have 911s on Circuit Zolder. Of course, the only configuration we got. This is sort of the little brother to Spa. You know, it's out there towards the back, but still a very, very famous track. And we're gonna be getting things started off there. What do you think? You already gave a few of your thoughts, but what are you most looking forward to every time you see a race on Zolder, Marco?
Yeah, it's a racetrack that has, of course, changed a bit over the years due to the safety changes that have been made. The big sticking point here is that a lot of the big corners have been changed to chicanes, and so as I was saying earlier, these big braking areas with these cup cars are going to be very interesting, because that's also, every chicane is a good passing point, but a very dangerous passing point. And so drivers will have to be very smart in picking up their spots to make the overtake. There are some pretty nasty curbs here, which I'm very excited about, because this car loves bouncing on those curbs, and a couple of tight hairpins, and the very, flowing, not flowing, dynamic, long-range corners in the very first section of the track will really put these drivers in a tough position. All in all, you mentioned Spa, and of course, the two tracks couldn't be any more different to each other, but they still prove to be very, very challenging in every car you drive. And of course, this one with the cup car is going to be quite an interesting one.
Absolutely, and that means coming up next, we got exactly what I alluded to earlier. Just a little bit of info, some housekeeping about the races in Season 2. If you guys are out there and you're watching but not racing with us, you can absolutely join us. All you need to do, head on over to amxrace.com. We've got 3 tiers of races this season: free, paid 1, and paid 2. And basically, free, you enter for 0, you can win a minimum payout, or you can win up to $30 as our total prize pool. I think 8 for first, and then you have a fastest lap prize as well. And of course, the total prize pool for putting $5 in is $134, with $20 entry fee for paid tier 2, giving you a chance at your chunk of $506 prize pool for paid tier 2 races. So a lot of money on the line, over $16,000 here for season 2. And about 3 months, we have to go through 90 separate races. And this is what the schedule looks like for those races. We're sitting here on day number 2, April 10th, depending on where you are in the world. And we do have a couple of races coming up for you here today. Of course, day 3 will be on the 11th, 13th, 15th. Guys can read the rest of the schedule there on your screen. Just a reminder for the points. This is the way it shapes up for our free races. First is going to be 8 points, 6 points, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. And then, of course, the fastest lap will also get you another 3 points. And, of course, each point is worth $1 USD. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about payouts. Which races do you want to join? If you absolutely don't want to pay any money, you can join our free races, and this is what you have to look forward to. Honestly, really good distribution. You can, if you place first, that's 8 points already right off the bat. And here's a little bit more of a detailed look after Marco's wonderful explanation of Zolder earlier. It is, of course, a very, very storied track, a little bit safer now, as Marco mentioned, with those chicanes being added, but has been very, very closely tied to the Belgian Grand Prix, of course, where we've seen some of the best racers of all time, and of course, a very iconic track.
Yes, we see the big sticking point I'm seeing on the track map here. Read is the temperature, 43 degrees Celsius. That's going to be very challenging for these guys to ride around with this. Again, no traction control, no ABS, so chances of locking up quite high, of course. You need to be very gentle on those rear tires. With the rear engine, of course, with this car, when you push the gas pedal, all the way is going to shift on the back. So it's going to be absolutely crucial to manage your tires very nicely, with this track temperature especially. So it's going to be quite a challenge, even more challenges, today is going to be very, the best driver today that will be able to manage all of these things we talked about in the pre-show so far is going to be the one that wins. And of course, not making any mistakes, which, with the grass, you can see all around the racetrack, very little, if any, tarmac runoffs here. So you need to keep this car on the black stuff, because the moment you go off and clip the grass, it's over.
Yeah, and here's a look at the car that you guys just heard Marco talking about, the Porsche 911s, of course, GT3s, 992. It's a car that it really sets itself apart from, I guess, your other configurations. Like Marco was mentioning, you get mid engine, and as far as the, if you're looking for a car of the future, the spaceship car, this is not it, right? You really do have to be on top of your mechanical school controls, and when it comes to ways to stick to the track, and when it comes to like racing under forgiving circumstances, Zolder is maybe not as forgiving a track. And you can see the one minor exception of that being right there. Otherwise, it is just grass, and that is really disastrous if you're looking to put up a good performance. So Porsche 911s in combination with Zolders, what we're going to be setting up for in just a few minutes. Practice is already kind of winding down. We're going to be getting into the qualifiers here pretty soon. I don't know exactly how many people are going to be members of this race, but I do know that especially when the numbers are high, it can be certainly very challenging. Although 911s definitely love their bumps for sure.
Yeah, Porsche makes this car intentionally hard to drive because, of course, it is used in all the Porsche Carrera Cup national leagues that are in Germany, Italy, USA, everywhere in the world, and then, of course, the big Porsche Super Cup that follows around the Formula One World Championship. And so many drivers over the years have gone through the national championships into the Porsche Super Cup to be then become part of the Porsche factory program, which has been, of course, been racing in GT competition, GT3 competition now soon with the switch that will be done in the WEC and has already been done in IMSA from GT to GT3, and of course the newly minted hypercar program by Porsche, both in IMSA and in the WEC with the LMDH, the beautiful LMDH by Porsche. So basically this car is being created to become like a testing ground, a proving ground for Porsche and for the drivers to select their new crop of talent for the future. With so many programs all over the world, they certainly need to keep the line moving. But this car also in other championship, for example, in the Brazilian Endurance Championship, it comes with quite a unique feature. Many cars are designed to work with ABS. For example, GT3 cars, the proper GT3 cars, if you remove ABS, they become quite undrivable. This car comes both with and without ABS, with and without traction control, because for the longer endurance races, for example, the Brazilian Championship, but not only that, maybe I've seen these cars when I've been to Spa for the 24 hours many years ago. There were a couple of cup cars, so they allow for some, let's say, comfort features over the longer races, but none of that stuff here, of course.
Yeah, you call them comfort features. I would call them complacency. Anytime you get used to any automatic systems helping you out, when you remove them, you realize you kind of teleport back in time a little bit before there were all of those comfort features. And so you really do have to understand how to race a beast of steel and, I guess, gasoline. So it's going to be definitely challenging, and especially when it comes to those setups. We had some setup questions earlier. It is just standard boilerplate setups here today. So as much as you can fine tune this is definitely going to be a great combination of cars and drivers. Hopefully, here you can see on your screen. Not only the beginning of the qualifying laps, we've got 10 minutes of qualifiers here. And this is Guinness. We got a chance to see him race quite impressively yesterday, and already going through with a very, very good qualifying time so far. Looks to be keeping up.
Yeah, Kortengin is a fantastic driver. Has been proven to be quite adaptable in many different cars. Combination is very good with TCR cars, which are, of course, as everybody knows, now nobody knows, of course, my favorite kind of car. Front-wheel drive is the way to be, in my opinion. But he's been good in basically anything you put it on. He's been on iRacing for such a long time, and it's not uncommon to see him at the top of the timing table every time. So let's keep an eye on him, because he's certainly one of those guys that could win every day. And we see Victor Miranda, of course, another driver that's quite common to see in this league, and he's super fast as well in any kind of car. I see it driving this beautifully presented car that reminds me of the good old days of Juan Montoya in NASCAR. That was a long time ago.
Now you're speaking my language. You know, I definitely a little bit newer to iRacing and racing in general, but even I, as somebody who came from the southern part of the United States, got my fair share of NASCAR. So I appreciate the reference. It does bring back a few good memories. Although these guys are maybe a little bit faster than your average NASCAR, and I would say that they definitely have a lot to navigate here that puts them a little bit a tier ahead of driving around it in just ovals. So obviously Zolder, a very exciting track to watch, and very excited to see what kind of times these guys are going to be posting up. Looks like about 1:30 is the time to beat, set up there by Victor Miranda through his first qualifying lap.
That's a good lap. Caio Gaspar is only, well, 9/10 of a second behind, so that's quite the gap already, but we still have a bit of time. Of course, group qualifying, so this means that the drivers will, of course, drive against each other, which is always something to consider, but also it means that, like, for example, it happens in many real-life series where they have group qualifying, the drivers that start their last lap time before the 10-minute mark will have the chance to complete their lap. So this is 10 minutes, but in reality will be a little bit longer. While when you do single car qualifying in iRacing, the moment the 10-minute mark hits, or the 8-minute, whatever, it's been set by the organizers, that's it. So another thing to consider, you need to time your qualifying runs quite well, because you want to get basically start the last lap with, let's say, 9:50 on the clock, 9:55 on the clock, to then have a last ditch lap, go all out and try to get pole position.
Yeah, it's crazy how micromanaging you have to be. Every little bit counts, and there's like I think an hour 20-minute practice time, so you can really get a feel for the track and get ready for that 10-minute qualifier. And you can really see even these drivers. Oh man, maybe anyway, the drivers continuing to improve on their laps. And you mentioned earlier, Marco, the temperature here, and I'm a little bit new to iRacing, but I know certainly if I was there beside you in real life at a real track watching these players drive, this sort of warm up is really going to warm up these cars and their tires on this track on such a bright and sunny day outside.
Yeah, and the iRacing tire model is very sensitive to the track temperature. You could see like some massive drop in lap times with just a few degrees less on the track surface, and it's quite sensitive to lockups, which goes back to the fact that this car doesn't have ABS, so they really need to feather that brake pedal so much in this qualifying. And once you lock up the brakes, for example, or you have like a half spin, or you have a wiggle, you lose control, you are much better suited to go back to the pits, change the tires, and go back out, because basically once you make a mistake for the next 1 or 2 laps, you are driving on ice, and especially with this car. So they couldn't have a worse possible car and weather combination today for this guy. So another thing to look, and of course this will be even more important during the race, because with 12 laps not a lot of chances to make mistakes and then recover, as Miranda improves 30.6 there. And of course, in the race, you, especially in a short race like this, you shouldn't be going to the pits and change tires. So when you make a mistake like that, you have to really manage for the next 1 or 2 laps. And trust me, it is incredibly hard.
Yeah, this is not 24 hours of Zolder. We've got about 20 minutes to have this race coming up, so important to get your pit time in, get refreshed, get ready to go for what is going to be an absolutely grueling race. And you really can't ignore the not only the setups but also the conditions of your tires going into a race. And one of the huge, I guess, defining characteristics of iRacing, very realistic tire modeling. Of course, the temperature really going to affect our racers today, as they are, of course, out on their tracks in the 911. So, just taking a look, and it does look like Miranda is all up at the top, but some very close times with Guinness and Gaspar. Very close, less than a second behind for win, only 1.4. And Resende, I think, just taking his time, might not have gotten as much practice in as he wanted to, and trying to come through and improve on that, with Diego joining up, but kind of content to watch for now as we close out our first 10 minutes of those qualifiers. You might have time for one more lap with group qualifying, of course, in April, but gonna have to get that started.
Yeah, see, Caio Gaspar crosses the line with 140 left, so he maybe should be able to get 2 laps in, and he surely needs both of them because it's 8 tenths of a second back from Miranda. Guinness does a 158.2, which is a very slow, probably getting himself ready for another lap time. So does Miranda with 155.9, so they're taking like maybe a lap to let the tires rest, let themselves rest, of course, before launching for another lap. But these 2 guys, Miranda and Guinness, they only have 1 lap to try and improve, whilst Gaspar will have 2. So let's see, he's going here through this, the first of the chicanes, the Kleine chicane, which means a small chicane, from my incredibly limited knowledge of Dutch language. And then they go into the Villeneuve chicane here, because of course, sadly, this is the corner where Gilles Villeneuve passed away in his horrible crash in the 1980s. It was a long sweeping right-hander, now it's like this chicane. And up and down they go to the Boulderbergpocht, which is the hairpin here. Very difficult braking zone, but such a good passing chance. But it moves into this awkward chicane here, which is quite challenging. When you go for the overtake at the hairpin, you need to be prepared, because this chicane is, nobody wants to leave the preferred racing line there. And then, of course, the final chicane here, the Jackie X Pocht, of course, named after the legendary F1 champion Jackie X from Belgium. And on the start-finish line, here comes Caio Gaspar, and this is going to be a 131.6. He improves, but he doesn't move up from third.
Right, and so these will basically be your qualifying times, and thus setting up for the grid, basically what you can expect there. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned, I think the word we're going to say the most today is by far chicane. Not that there are that many, but they are quite well positioned. Not only do they slow you down around some of the iconic turns of Zolder, but also prove to be very challenging. You really do have to have a heavy foot on the brake pedal in order to put up consistently strong lap times during every one of our laps today. And I guess we are ready to go. You can see the cars stopping and then teleporting immediately into the grid for the first lap of our first race of the day, Marco.
Yeah, we saw the last second, Jackson SNG was able to get into third place, pipping Gaspar, who has to move back down to fourth. But this seems to be our set starting grid. We are just waiting for, just waiting on the session to switch over, and then it's going to be time for the starting grid, and of course the 12-lap race that's ahead of us.
Yeah, 12 laps today, so fairly short race, all things considered. I guess if we were to maybe double, triple that, then we're going to have to get into some pitting strategy because it is going to be a very hot race for our cars and their tires today. This is what things look like going into our race. Results of the qualifiers. No time for our bottom two. I actually just saw Anjehan hit there at the bottom. I didn't actually see him during qualifiers. So he and Villarreal will be at the bottom. And then we've got Miranda, Guinness, Sende, Gaspar, and Irwin, all racers that we've gotten a chance to see already in AMX Season 2. And any names, any favorites that you're going to be watching today, Marco?
Can't look past Victor Miranda. Fantastic lap time, 0.6 of a second around here is not a small margin. But then, of course, the race is different story. You need to be consistent for all the time. And with a quick driver like Guinness starting next to him, it's going to be tough. So, but I can't look past Miranda because this is a fantastic qualifying effort from him. And of course, we have our two non-qualifiers that they are always a mystery object because they could be very, very fast, and we just don't know it.
Yeah, a few potential landmines there at the end. And actually, to point out towards Victor Miranda's qualifying time, it's actually about 0.5 of a second faster than the current lap record on Zolder, set by, I think, Harry King earlier last year. So very, very comparable to the absolute fastest racers on their lap in the real world. And here we go. Cars getting ready, getting their speed up as the chase car leads them around. And we are almost underway with our first race of the day here on Zolder.
You can see the two Brazilian drivers, Senji and Miranda, teammates, of course, racing for Tony Kanaan race team. That is, of course, pretty easily spotted by the livery that is, similar for both of them. Guinness, of course, in the blue and red car, aptly 911 numbered, of course, because why not? Every race I've been to, I'm a marshal in real life, but I'm also a race fan, so I've been, a couple of places in Italy and abroad to watch some races, and every time there is a race with the Porsches, there is always the one guy with the number 911. It's like impossible to escape, and we keep the tradition alive with Corentin Guinness, of course. Good on him. I like this tradition.
I do too, and every time you see somebody like that, you're like, oh, okay, all is right with the world, right? It's when you don't see that you start to wonder, hey, wait a second, what happened?
I always wonder if they have like a random draw for who gets that number, because I'm sure that everybody that drives a Porsche in like a multi-class championship wants to get that number, no? As by the way, you see the drivers very smartly taking the chicanes single file, which is an unwritten rule that many people forget, but good drivers, you can spot them because they do the chicane single file. Of course, they can do all of them single file, apart from the last one, because that's when the pace car will go into the pits. So good on them for being respectful. And this pace lap is quite short. We're just a couple of corners away from the green flag.
Yeah, absolutely. We are about to get things started, and I just want to go ahead and point out that this is going to be a little bit different than our first couple of races. The great thing about Season 2 for AMX is we've paired a lot of different combinations of cars and tracks together. So every time you race, every time you tune in, it's going to be a very, very different feel. And this is across all three tiers, free, paid 1, and paid 2, where you're going to loop those through and shuffle things around and hopefully give you guys a very exciting, very different way to watch these races. You can see it, things starting off here already, crossing the line, and Victor Miranda out in front off of his qualifying time and placement, and everybody lining up behind them. Although it looks like had a couple of pitting there at the end. Either way, Anjehan, the guy that we didn't get a chance to see qualify, still there at the back of the package.
Yeah, both Hesenji and Purwin went into the pits straight away after the green flag dropped, which is quite unusual. And so it remains to be seen. They are waiting at the entrance of pit road for one reason or another, as the drivers are making their way through the first chicane. Miranda and Guinness, the two drivers we talked about, of course, keeping first and second place, with Caio Gaspar following closely in third, Villarreal and Anjayan fourth and fifth. I'm very curious to understand the logic behind this decision from both Hesenji and Purwin to pit immediately.
You know, maybe they had to take a pit stop in real life. I don't know. But either way, that is where they are and will remain. Although it looks like as we... Yeah, they're still down there. Okay, I was making sure. So plus 36 seconds. All right, yeah. We're going to have that there. And as we come around these chicanes, you can see some very odd movement here on your screen as we watch Villarreal still trying to maneuver his way through. I guess it's a complicated chicane, so you really can't take that too slowly, or can you? I don't know. That was an odd interaction to watch.
Yeah, unless they forgot, you know what? Unless the setup is basically tailored for the, you know, for basically they don't have enough fuel to finish the race, because we see Anne and Villarreal, both of them also coming into the pit lane to get. Let's keep focus on one of these two drivers if we can, if they can go up on the jacks or not, because if they don't go up on the jacks, they just put the fuel in the car and then go out. Maybe nobody's good on fuel, so people are trying to take their stops out of the way immediately. You know, this happens sometimes because these cars, of course, when you get like on a certain setup, you of course can't change it, and you have to put fuel in the race. So let's see, maybe our leaders as well will have to stop at some point.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. You might be a little bit jarred to see drivers pitting incredibly early on, but everybody's got to put gas in their car eventually. So you can see the two players who pitted very, very early. Back in the race, Resende, though, still substantially behind after that early pit. So on coming out of the pit after getting refueled and back in action. He was up there towards third and fourth, contesting third earlier, but he will definitely have a substantial amount to make up as he enters in down 35.
Yeah, and you can see the difference. The guys that pitted top three, Miranda, Guinness, Gaspar, inside 3 seconds of each other. Then from Hesenji down, it's all drivers that have stopped already. So let's keep an eye. You know, it's incredibly easy to forget to put fuel in the car or to change the setup from, you know, the qualifying setup to the race setup. I have done that mistake so many times. Trust me. And I've been sim racing since the late 90s, which, you know, you should say, you should not make those mistakes. I still make those mistakes. I still also can't drive properly, which is another story, which is the reason why I'm in the commentary box. You know, a few years ago I realized, you know, maybe a career change is needed to stay in this business. So still to this day I sometimes race, and these mistakes are, you know, always part of the equation.
Yeah, I've heard the same said for drivers driving just their normal car to work and back every day. They come home and they're excellent sim racers, and then you see them in real life driving on the streets, and you know, you better hold on and buckle up, because the skill set is not exactly the same. However, the drivers who have been traditionally dominant in beta season 1.5 and also continuing on here in season 2, Miranda and Gaspar now finally taking their turn to head on into the pit lane and refuel.
You can see this lovely chicane that they put at the entrance of pit road, because they have those manual fuel pumps, because some racing series, for example the Creventic racing series, use the manual fuel pumps for refueling, and not like the professional fuel pumps that they use in other championships. So yeah, this you know, absolves any driver of any, you know, wrongdoing, because as a matter of fact they had to pit mandatorily to get to the end of this race. So Miranda, Guinness and Gaspar are the last three to stop and both Miranda and Guinness are coming out of the pits already, followed by Gaspar. The gap at the front is only 9/10 of a second between the pair of them. You need to be very, very careful, because by default iRacing checks your tires and fuel when you get into the pits. This means that basically you will do tires as well if you forget to uncheck it. And this is, I fear, what happened to a few of the drivers that are a bit further behind. Because, of course, when you do the tires, it takes much longer time, especially in this case where they basically have to do a splash and then they have to go out of the pits immediately. So, another thing that caught me off guard so many times, you can't even imagine. But the top two guys, no mistakes for them, and actually Guinness is actually closing down on Miranda, only 8/10 of a second. Now you can see, looking from the back of the leader's car, the 911 Porsche is getting incredibly close.
That's right, distance closing up at the front of the pack, and Gaspar back about 7 seconds, which will be pretty difficult to make back up on. I was really excited to see him contesting the top 3 there for a while, but after an unfortunate pit, he is going to be way out of contention there at the bottom. Of course, following Guinness and Miranda up at the top as they come back around, going through yet another one of the chicanes, not even hitting the brakes that hard, retaining so much of their max speed, looking to improve on their already incredibly fast lap.
Gap down to 6/7 of a second across the start finish line. You can see much quicker lap for Guinness, even considering, of course, the stop. And you can see the number 911 car is getting super close. Of course, one thing you have to do in this situation, if you are the leading driver, limit the amount of times you look in the rearview mirror to a minimum, leaving the amount of time you look at the relative box score on the bottom right of your screen to a minimum. You need to focus ahead, because the moment you start losing concentration is the moment you lose the position. And of course, Guinness needs to keep the pressure down, trying to force Miranda into a mistake. A bit of a better first sector for Miranda in this lap. He stretches his legs up to 1.1 seconds right now as they go to the Villeneuve chicane. As Gaspar, you can see the rain distance, 8 seconds back from Guinness. So a bit of a moment of respect, if we can call it like this, for Miranda now, extending the gap back 1 second.
Oh, coming around the chicane, brakes on and drawing the cars even closer together here. Box exited and now through another lap of the race, closing our way in on halfway through 6 out of our 12 laps. And like I said earlier, the competition up at the top seems to be steadying out. You know, this is I like the word you use, respite, right? We're settling into things. The drivers just saying, okay, we don't have to overtake every single chicane. We can settle down and make sure to just play our own game, race our own race, and not keep checking to see if the guy behind me is looking to overtake just yet. Trying to get these solid laps in, and honestly, still room for improvement. These laps are not that close to the times we even saw in qualifiers. We were seeing 130s, and even Miranda and Guinness last lap were hitting like 150s, I want to say. So still very, very fast laps, even being put in by Resende and Perwin, though they are at the back of the pack.
You see currently Guinness fighting hard against his steering wheel as they go to the Villeneuve chicane once again. Now gap 1.2. We have Jackson Hasenji closing in on Villarreal for 4th place. So that's, of course, we saw in the opening of the broadcast, every position matters because you can improve your situation. And here we go, points wise and of course prize money wise. And Hasenji looking very, very aggressive in the mirrors of his opponent.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much actually going on, even though we are not following the race leaders. Oh, he was almost going to think about it. Coming around the curve, he is always sharking, looking for an opportunity to overtake. Ooh, hitting the grass quite a bit here. Unable to keep it just straight on the straightaway. Coming down around yet another curve, and still absolutely looking for a place to overtake. A potential contact against the rear bumper, but barely avoiding that. And here we go. Overtake in progress, but can't maintain the top speed around that chicane, and still fighting tooth and nail, neck and neck. They continue to jockey for position.
And Jackson has Angie's car with massive damage on his front right. I wonder if after hitting Villarreal in the back earlier. And now, oh boy, almost contact again. I think they in fact touched, and somehow Hesenji gets the position. It was quite the enthralling battle. A couple of very, very close contact moments, but the Brazilian driver jumps up to P4.
Yeah, he absolutely does dominate his way up there. You can see some real distances being put in between our drivers. Gaspar kind of by himself there, but the battle for first, second, and fourth, fifth is neck and neck, about 1 second separating our drivers. They still absolutely looking to take this race home. Miranda still leading, so we'll see that for at least this lap, and probably for a few more before these drivers make their final decision. Say, okay, look, it's time. It's do or die, now or never. Time to you'll make your moves. So you can see he's not playing or racing as aggressively as maybe some of our other racers. He's just content to stay in that position, get the draft on, and make sure that he can maintain his time, maintain his position here behind Miranda in first.
In the meantime, Pervian went past Villarreal as well, so driver from Uruguay is down to 6th position. There is on your cameras right now a bit of damage for him as well on the front of his car, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, Perwin, one of the fastest drivers in qualifying, and so was Hesenji, of course, but now they are so far back of the rest of the competition. It's going to be tough for them. They might get a position on each other in case of a mistake, but you know, they're better suited, I think, to just pull away from Villarreal and try to settle into a rhythm in these final 4 laps.
Final 4 laps indeed, only about 12 minutes through. We did have to pit earlier, and that should mean that our drivers are fine for the rest of the race. But it's just such a weird way to start the race. You know, I'm expecting a lot of early action, but instead we actually kind of put the brakes on the action earlier, as we can see our racers putting the brakes on that chicane, heading right back through the start to start lap number 9. Miranda and Guinness, gap widening a little bit to now over a second. And back towards the back of the pack, even though we saw a lot of intense fights between Gaspar, Resende, and Perwin, really the race settling down into what really could be a great predictor of our final positions. The gaps between everybody but first and second really widening.
It was a fantastic lap for Miranda this last time by, and pulled the gap to 1.5. As we can see, another stop for Ranjayan. So maybe we have another stop on the horizon. This could be something that we should keep an eye on. Unpredictable race with this pit strategy as it is right now. So we shall see. Even though in qualifying, I don't remember drivers making this many stops, but of course qualifying was a bit shorter. As we are on board with Victor Miranda, looking in front of him, the best thing a driver can see. Clean track ahead. You know, we still don't have rain in iRacing, so clear skies. So you know there is no. But we're getting rain quite soon, I'm told, so this is not going to be true for long, but this is the perfect situation. And looking at the clock, at the timing on the bottom right of the screen, you see that the gap is increasing, and the lap counter is ticking down. Now only 3 laps left for both of these drivers, so for Miranda it's looking quite good.
Yeah, you know that the finicky, the sensitive Belgian weather, you can have rain on half your track and then absolutely nothing on the other half. So today, clear skies though, and the clearest skies for Miranda as he continues to dominate every single lap. And basically flawless performance so far, even when Guinness was really nipping at his heels, maintains that dominance towards the top, and only 2 more laps remain for our racers to make a move, and they need to make it soon, as now over 2 seconds, the smallest distance between all of our racers except for on back at the back.
Yeah, the Belgian weather, as I told, I was to the 2016 24 Hours of Spa in person as a fan, and we experienced in the 24 hours of the race, I think 4 or 5 different seasons, even like unknown seasons to humankind, you know. So, especially towards the end of the race, we went from like a thunderstorm with freezing winds to shorts weather in like half an hour. I'm not joking.
You have to pack a backpack with you with another 5 changes of clothes just in case you need to look appropriate for every season here. But final season's coming up here in this race. Perwin there towards the back, but still well away from his next competitors, far in advance of Villarreal, even there in 6th place. And you were mentioning maybe some final pits coming up, but I think our drivers are just going to have to push their cars across the finish line. Not a lot of time left here, closing in on about 16 minutes and only 1 more lap remains.
Yeah, they'll get the white flag this time by. I'm seeing drivers keep pushing, maybe, you know, unpitted very, very early. And so what might have happened is that sometimes when you pit this early, you cannot get your calculations straight. iRacing offers now from this season auto fuel functionality, which is pretty common in third-party apps, both free and paid. But these apps need like some data to work with. So if you pit too early, and the iRacing one also needs data, so if you pit too early, you might get like wrong amount of fuel, too much, too little, and I think in his case it was a bit too little. So we look at Miranda, he has got 3 corners left, and then the white flag will drop for the final lap of this race here at Zolder.
Zolder already proving to be a very exciting racetrack, not quite as dynamic as some of our earlier races, but I guess this has just been a more sort of boilerplate consistent race. We hop on board Miranda, just seeing what kind of consistency it takes to be able to make these laps so dominantly, coming through with an even faster time, or actually almost as fast as time. They're about 6 seconds off his fastest lap so far in the race. Just dominant every single lap. You can be finishing off with, sector 5 with just under a minute. So really, really, really impressive driving there by Miranda, all by himself, front of the pack.
There's the white flag, so last lap that's just started. Looking good for the podium positions for Miranda, Guinness and Gaspar. They just need to manage their cars for basically 1 more lap around this beautiful racetrack, and then it will be time for the podium celebration for the 3 of them. Resenji, Purbian, Villarreal and Han look sadly set to miss out on the top 3 spots with only a few amounts of meters left.
But you know, that's the great thing about AMX Season 2, the payouts, the points, pretty widely distributed, especially with only 6 or 7 racers. You're still going to actually get quite a few points. So just because there aren't, if this were a 20-man race and you're down there in 20th place, your points are limited. But with only 7 racers here, you're still going to get that point, still going to get that money. So all the racers can probably feel pretty good about themselves. And coming through that checkered flag, we are about to see Miranda finish the race in 1st place as expected. Guinness coming through about 3.05 behind.
Fantastic drive from Victor Miranda. Guinness very close 2nd, and Caillou Gaspar coming through the final chicane as well, getting a well-deserved 3rd place. And now we wait for the other competitors, which are around 15 and then 30 seconds behind the leaders. Here comes Kasenji, 4th place. I think he made a mistake in the pit lane because he was quite fast in qualifying. I think he changed his tires in the pit stop, and that took him out sadly of the fight for the podium.
Yeah, very different race style, at least for me. You know, I obviously don't have quite as much experience watching races or racers, and yeah, even Villarreal coming up, bringing up the end. A little bit disappointing race for him after having seen so many good performances from Villarreal. So finishing off the day there in 6th, and we should have your final race results up there on your screen. The results for our first paid Tier 2 race number 1 will be Victor Miranda, Inez, Caspar, Rosende, Herwin, Villarreal, and Anjehan rounding things out in 7th place.
As I was saying, fantastic drive for Miranda. What a great performance. He had Guinness behind him all race long, putting pressure, but he was able not only to withstand the pressure, he was able to, widen the gap, and in the end, I would say, comfortably, relatively, bring home the full mark, taking the checkered flag with 3 seconds lead. So fantastic performance, Victor Miranda. Congratulations! What a well-deserved victory.
Yeah, and of course, it's another good day for the number 9-11, second place there today. So, right as you said, Marco, you need to see that number at some point when you are racing these Porsches. So, very good performance there to finish things out in second place for Guinness.
Yeah, Guinness, very complete driver. We were talking about Juan Montoya, of course, a driver that has raced everywhere and be competitive in any kind of car, and Guinness literally reminds me of him. So keep an eye on him, because he will want to improve by 1 position next time he's racing here with us on AMX Global.
Yeah, and that's really going to do it for our first race of the day. Very exciting moments, some weird pit maneuvers. So definitely, if you are out there iRacing, whether you're competing in our league or another one, check your settings. Make sure that you get your gas tires pit situation situated before the race starts. But for all of our racers who did inevitably have to hit that pit lane, yeah, very, very strong performance, like we mentioned once again there. Gaspar, Rosende, Perwin, Villarreal on to wrap things up for our first race there on Zolder, and actually, Marco, almost more excitingly, our first race together commentating. So it's absolutely blast. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
It was amazing. Every time we get to commentate is a good day, so I'm very happy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Not too much else to wrap up, really, about that race. Most consistent races like this generally end the way that they begin, and so did this one, no exception. Miranda finishing there in first, and that will end our time together on Zolder. A little bit of a fast race, or at least time flies when you're having fun, and that means that we're going to have to say once again goodbye to the Porsche 911s. Coming up next, we're going to get British cars on British tracks as we hit Radical SR8s on what was that? It was on trying to remember, Oulton Park. That's right. Our next map race coming up. So once again, a very different experience for sure. We're really gonna have to change our expectations from what they were. And that's going to do it for our first race. And stick around. We'll see you back here in about 30 minutes with our second map of the day.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience. Sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest...
our second race of the day. I think it's working. There we go. All right, we're back. Yeah, welcome back. And I'm just going to defer to Marco to introduce our second race of the day so that I can get my head back on straight. Marco, what's going on?
Yes, welcome everyone. We are back for race 2, and we are here at Oulton Park with the Radical SR8. So it's, you said earlier during the Porsche Cup race, quintessential combination, British car, British racetrack. This is like entry-level-ish sort of open cockpit prototypes. Incredibly fun.
Is, well, a couple things. First off, the points, right? Paid Tier 2 means that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of points every race. As you can see on your screen right now, means that for first place you get 25 points, second place 20 points, so on and so forth, with the fastest lap being an additional 10 points, or $10, because each point is worth $1 US. So that is a lot of money on the line, and that means that our racers are definitely going to be playing their best. Now, finally, let's go ahead and take a look at our track info. I think this should show, nope, still Zolder, but the information below it is exactly what we were talking about for Oulton Park.
Yes, sir, and as you can see, we are basically in the heart of England, basically in Cheshire, so top, let's say, middle towards the west of the country. If you can get an idea, we are very close to the border with Wales, of course.
Right.
So a lovely part of England, which you can see even from our aerial shot here, with the beautiful green grass everywhere. Traditional British weather and landscape, more importantly. And as you can see, the track temperature even here 42 degrees Celsius. So again, this car, just like for the Porsche earlier, rear wheel drive and the rear engine, of course, so you need to be very, very careful on the power, because of course we don't have any kind of electronic help for the driver in this case as well. So really today has been an old school kind of racing day here in AMX, and here we go with the facts with the beautiful Radical SR8, one of the earliest cars I can remember being on iRacing. And as a fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, Reed, but when this car came on iRacing, for the longest time, it didn't have any headlights. But like 3 or 4 years ago, the community said, can we get headlights? The real car as an optional, you can purchase the headlights to put on so we can have night races. And iRacing listened and put on headlights, which I don't think they will be necessary today, but always nice to have them on your race car.
That's right. When we film AMX Season 2 on Fast and Furious, then we'll need those for our night racing. But for now, we're going to be doing it during the daytime, although, as you mentioned, Marco, the iconic British weather means that our daytime is more like gray time with the skies above. Although this does seem to be a little bit of a less cloudy day, although you can tell that this isn't entirely authentically British, because the rain is invisible instead of being everywhere all the time. But beautiful race regardless ahead of us with those SR8s, and we get a little bit of a different experience, but some things are still the same, right? We still have very primal cars without a lot of extra assistance. You still have to be 100% driver to pilot your car through races like this. And we didn't get a chance to see it on our overlay for the map for the race info, but this is going to be another very unique track that will challenge our drivers in ways very different from the track Zolder we saw earlier on today.
Yes, this is a track, of course, many different configurations here. We are going to the international layout, which basically means we do the full lap with 2 extra chicanes added for good measure. The first one at Britain's at the beginning of the backstretch, and the second one, the Knickerbrook, at the end of the backstretch, which could be interesting passing opportunities, and just like Zolder, also interesting crashing opportunities. So be very careful there. But if you go through the list of the corners of this racetrack, Old Cascades, you have Druids, of course. Like, it's amazing corners. Druids corner, turn 15, my favorite corner of this racetrack. It's a double apex right-hander where you come after going downhill and then uphill after doing the second chicane Knickerbrook. Double apex, and you need to nail the exit perfectly to set up for Lodge Corner, which is technically the last corner. There is then turn 17, which is basically the bend on the straight, which I struggle to consider a corner. So you need to set up your car perfectly in the latter part of the lap to have a good run, then turn 1 and the rest of the... But you will see Zolder was, had a couple of moments up and down, but elevation was not a factor. Here it's completely different. The elevation of this racetrack, you can see it even from these pictures, absolutely a crucial part of the lap around here. So the checkered flag is waving for this practice session as we take the final corner here and go to the start-finish line, and then we will be on with qualifying, and just like usual, 10 minutes open qualifying for the drivers today.
That's right, you can pop in and out, but next 10 minutes is all we have. Of course, we do have group qualifying, so you do want to time your start to your qualifiers and get that extra lap in at the end. Yeah, don't know exactly how many racers we're going to have for qualifiers, but you can see out there on the track already our racers getting out there and underway. You said Druid's Corner was your favorite corner on here, but actually Oulton Park has some of the most iconic corner names in racing, and I gotta say my favorite is of course Knickerbrook, known because during the reshaping of the track a long time ago, they brought in a demolition team to blow up some trees, and the explosion was so big that it startled some people who were nearby who happened to have left behind important clothing articles like knickers near the brook. And thus, after finding those, they're like, okay, well, we know what to call this corner. And even though it is maybe not the most iconic corner on the track, it is definitely the funniest, at least for me. So very cool. Not only names, corners, chicanes, we've got everything coming your way as we head out into qualifier on Oulton Park.
And you can hear the engine screaming. One of the best things about driving this car is absolutely the engine, the engine notes. This car was released as a paid car way back when, and then was changed, and it was not very popular. It's a tricky car to drive, absolutely. Then it was made into a free car, and it became absolutely super popular with the C-Class series on the iRacing official service. Was always packed with drivers every couple of hours. Again, sadly, the new car, the SR10, the fun factor, somebody called the Smiles per Miles, went quite low compared to this one. So, as I say, this is a very special place in everybody. And if you have iRacing subscription and you want to try this car, even though it's not used anymore, by all means jump in, because it's free. And of course, why not take a shot at racing gear with us on AMX, because that's also a great thing that I suggest you do. As we can see some beautiful liveries in this race so far. I'm seeing a Brabham throwback livery there from the days of Nelson Piquet, and of course with the legendary Italian sponsor Parmalat, who has gone the way of the dodo in a spectacular financial meltdown like 20 years ago. Still holds a nice place in my heart, because their biscuits were delicious.
The saddest anecdote you're going to hear over the course of today's race, we promise, guys. No more biscuits, still a little bit of a nice throwback there. Also got the Monster livery, a classic whenever you see it. Very garish and out there. And finally, we've got the tower up showing us our racers for today. And of course, they should be very familiar for all of you if you tuned in for our first race on Zolder. We're coming back with Guinness, Perwin, Flavy, Villarreal, Miranda, and Gaspar.
Looking at the Texaco livery of Victor Miranda, of course, keeping in theme with his Tony Canan Racing and of course Corentin Guinness, who's today racing. I think his team. I don't want to be mistaken, but I think he's racing for Satellite Racing, which I don't think, because they don't have a livery for this car, since it's no longer using, so he's going for the plain black, the unsponsored car that's so familiar with the old days of NASCAR racing, of course, even though usually the unsponsored car was white, so if you found a last-minute deal, you could place the sticker and it would be, 99% of the time not color clashing with the white background, but he went for the black. So and you can see Josh Purwin, of course, none of those drivers that I think is looking for some redemption after a disappointing race a couple of hours ago in Zolder. And Miranda 127.3, Kulhavi 128.1, and Guinness 127.6. So Miranda, Guinness first, second, and Purwin is a close third. These gaps are quite different from what we saw with the Porsche Cup cars.
Yeah, oh, absolutely right. We're going to be a lot faster on this, and I think this track, Oulton Park, also requires a little bit of a different skill set than Zolder, for sure. Zolder, due to safety reasons, they were altering the track to put in a lot of chicanes to slow you down coming into some of the more dangerous curves that you had to deal with there. With Oulton Park, it's more about maximizing some of their absolutely incredible straightaways, but certainly some dangerous chicanes to watch out for here around Dickerbrook, Hilltops, and then Britain's chicane coming after the huge hairpin on Shell's oil.
The cars are very bunched up with each, especially these 4 or 5 drivers we just saw there. I think they are trying to maximize getting the draft, which is very powerful in this car. Of course, nobody wants to give the draft to the other driver, but such are the rules with open qualifying. You cannot, you cannot. I mean, you can abort your lap and basically give your place in line to somebody else, but the time is of the essence, and so nobody is going to give up. As Miranda improves 127.2, Kulhavi improves 127.5, Gaspar improves. Oh, this top 5 is the top 5 is in alpha second between each other. Incredible balance. This is shaping up to be quite the race, and we still have, of course, a few minutes of qualifying left. So who knows what these drivers have up their sleeve if they have another, because anybody in this top 5, in my opinion, can jump in and get pole position today.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best racers we've seen so far in these SR8s. And just comparing the times being set here today to the absolute fastest times, I couldn't find SR8 records for this track, but I did find at least the records for the track, and they are absolutely right on track at 127. I think the fastest are going to be in cars like, Formula R, right? 118s. Being put up there, but for this class of car, 127, absolutely respectable race times coming through the end of our qualifiers.
And of course, speaking of British cars, we just got on iRacing the Formula Ford, which is a free car as well. Has been released a couple of weeks back at the beginning of this iRacing season. And that car is an absolute blast to drive. I absolutely recommend having a lap in that as well, because it's so much fun. They have absolutely nailed the car in iRacing and in real life. And of course, today, going back to the SR8s, one thing I of course failed to mention earlier, of course we are driving a prototype this time around, so with the Porsche Cup car, the draft wasn't very important, but it is going to be quite important today. Now, we don't have long stretches of because we are racing with the international version, which has the double chicane. If we didn't, we would have had this long backstretch with the drivers would go straight here, for example, instead of taking this. Careful of those tire bundles, by the way. They are made of concrete. They are not tire. They are concrete bundles. I mean, they might look like tires, but trust me, concrete. Same here. They don't move. Of course, with these fast cars, you cannot do without the second chicane, especially because otherwise Knickerbrook would be like the most dangerous corner in the world. So understandably, we have the chicane. But drafting is going to be very important, especially in the short straights we are going to have. If you want to keep in touch with the car in front, you need to do that absolutely.
And of course, coming out of those big turns, hitting the apex and accelerating extremely quickly to make the most of those straightaways, just as important as ever. So, lots to keep an eye out for today. And I want to say, Victor Miranda, we've seen him top pole position on a lot of these tracks, but like you mentioned earlier, it has a little bit to make up for, a little bit of potential revenge after a really unfortunate pit stop, but also his positioning was in the last race was a little unfortunate. So now coming through with a top time, but not by much, only 100th of a second behind Miranda, and overall these qualifying times are incredibly close, Marco.
And the gap between first and second, it's like unthinkably small. Like it's impossible to fathom. Around a lap like this to be that close, and they still both have one more attempt. Guinness actually at the fastest sector 2 of the session in this lap is doing right now. We are on board with Victor Miranda, who's trying to improve himself, getting the double apex here at Druid's Corner, and then onto this short straight. Look at the elevation changes. They are continuous, up and down, braking downhill here, so difficult. Get the apex here, on the gas, use the curb on the left, and then up again, tight to the left, on the start finish line. Victor Miranda, will he improve? The answer is he won't. And Guinness improves 127.1, barely improves, so the gap stays more or less the same. But for Corentin Guinness, an absolutely fantastic lap and a well-deserved pole position.
That's right, Guinness up there at pole, and Miranda, Gaspar, Clavey, and the rest, Perwin and Villarreal towards the bottom. And, honestly, Villarreal took a little bit of an L at the end of our last, or towards the middle of our last race on Zolder. So, fantastic driver, but still has yet to really put up those fantastic results we've seen from him in our previous seasons. So, down to the bottom of the pack, but still a driver to keep an eye on as we get into the grid for our final race of the day. Paid tier 2. So, of course, $20 buy-in with over $500 on the line in the prize pool for this last race of the day. A lot to race for, and great track with great cars to do that race.
It's going to be the short pace lap compared to the long full pace lap we have in some other places. So this is going to be crucial that in this couple of corners they have for warming up their tires, that they do it properly. They get into mental race stream very quickly, because it's going to be incredibly fast from the moment the pace car starts moving off of the pacing line, which will be now because everybody has gridded up and is ready to go, to when the green flag waves. Tops is going to be 45 seconds to 1 minute, so really you need to get into race mode immediately. Now, it helps that they just did a race with the Porsche Cup cars. And let me tell you, as a lover of drivers that can drive everywhere and many different cars, I love AMX because it puts these guys every time on the line, because they don't have a comfort zone. You are doing a different track, a different car every time, so you cannot hope to dominate with your favorite car. You need to be ready to compete in anything the league throws at you, and I mean, these guys are amazing because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though you see the same names on your screens does not mean that you're going to see the same skill level every single race. The racers are good, but in order to be a well-rounded racer, you do have to do exactly what we require of you here in AMX Season 2. Different cars, different tracks, and it's going to make a very, very different four very, very different races. We get off to the races. Our first lap underway, and already a lot of passing. Ooh, going wide there. Perwin way off onto the grass, but passing, overtaking happening. Back of the pack, though, Clavey off way in the bushes. Smell of the roast is not going to be in contention for this race, it seems like.
And poor Gaston goes the same way as Parma, unfortunately out of business after only one corner. and he's going to have to, you know, get some repairs and try to maximize his point, maybe get the fastest lap of the race. But the other 5 competitors still in a straight line next to each other as they go through the backstretch for the first time.
That's right, neck and neck out of the back stretch, and gonna have to slam on the brakes around the chicane, bring it to the midway curve. Our lap allowing them to get into what feels like their position for the next few minutes, but can't take anything too much for granted. Kind of want to take a look at that wreck that we saw earlier and see if we can get a replay of that crash, because I'm not exactly sure exactly how that happened. It looks like we're going to check that out right now. See exactly what happened. Looks like a little bit of clipping potentially there at the back.
So he came in third position, then on the power too early actually, and ooh, that's an unfortunate angle of impact, and that rear wing and the back end of the car. You can see the car is on the old damage model because the carbon fiber, according to iRacing, before the new damage model bent, which was, you know, of course not correct. So in the newer cars you have the new damage model with bits and pieces flying everywhere. We also saw the spin for Josh Purwin coming out of the backstretch in lap 1. At the front is 2 very familiar names with Guinness and Miranda first and second, but Gaspar trying to close the gap, and I think that Miranda is looking quite aggressive in the mirrors of the French driver. We have a 3-driver breakaway for the lead.
Absolutely, and especially in that 3-driver breakaway, less than a 1/10 of a second separating them. Or actually, I guess almost a second, but still less than 3 between first and second, and just keeping close and tight heading through, I guess to me, the most challenging chicane of the race. Still keeping it close. Guinness up there in front. No drivers looking to overtake just yet. Even though these chicanes are very good opportunities to, it can still be very, very difficult coming through the second lap of the race.
You can see Purwin trying to crawl back and get close to Diego Villarreal in 4th place. Of course, Kulavi is a bit further back, 9 seconds from Josh Purwin, as Gaspar gets the fastest lap of the race, 28.2, so he surely can't be discounted in the fight for the victory. Now his best bet right now is to hope that Guinness and Miranda get into a fight with each other, start losing time, and so he can get back, because of course he's the fastest of the 3 of them right now, but he's slightly faster, so he needs a bit more help to get closer to the front 2. Once he's in that draft, it's anybody's game for the victory. Oh, but he just made a mistake, bit there, and loses a bit of time, 1.5 seconds back now. Oh, bad mistake for Gaspar.
But keep in mind, that same mistake can happen to absolutely anyone on this track, including Guinness and Miranda, who are not perfect racers, although they are incredibly good. However, for the time being, Gaspar out of contention for this neck-and-neck competition between Guinness and Miranda at the head of the pack. You can see Gaspar in that monster livery just keeping I guess keeping his eyes set on the leaders, and there is still plenty of race left to play, Marco. Another 9 laps ahead of us, but a lot of work for Caio Gaspar, now 2 seconds back of the lead.
Yeah, and of course that lockup will compromise his car for a couple of laps. His tire temperatures are going through the roof, especially of course the front tire, the front right, the one he locked there. When you get to the hairpin, the shell corner, what basically happens as Miranda gets 27.8, there is a lot of banking. Positive bang, you know, towards the inside. So, but the car is a bit unstable under braking there, so that's why the weight went on the front right and he locked there. So we will see now if we go there with Miranda and Guinness to the corner. So you see, this big left-hander, and then you can see the banking coming into play right about now. There, look at, you can see it's almost like you are on an oval, basically.
Yeah, it's our mini oval here. It is an incredibly steep bank, but still very helpful, maintaining that top speed now through those chicanes, getting a little bit of a touch up on those concrete tires, but still able to maintain that top speed and able to maintain the race order for now, although it does look like Miranda kind of shoveling Guinness there at the end, getting very, very close, and maybe even considering making that overtake opportunity anytime soon. Guinness still in the lead now.
You know, I think that Miranda might have a bit more in his pocket. Now I'm seeing the back end of Guinness' car with a bent rear end. You can see there basically in the middle of where the rear wing is mounted. Yeah, and you can see from this camera right here also, see the irregularly shaped back of the car. That is going to be a bit of a problem, especially in the longer straights, which again there are not many of them, but is basically going to act almost as a parachute tied to his back. So that combined with the fact that Miranda is, to me, a bit faster and in the draft, could mean that Miranda is just waiting for his chance to make a clean pass. Of course, easier said than done, because Guinness is very, very good at defending as well.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Marco, because the damage modeling in iRacing is such a key part, not just because it looks like it would look if you got that injury to your car in real life, but also because it does drastically affect your performance. And so as the race goes on, and it will for another 11 laps, it's going to be a bigger and bigger factor. Obviously, we're probably not going to see the same crazy pitting that we saw in our earlier match on Zolder, but it is still going to be a liability as drivers continue to try and strive for that first place. Although it does appear as if we are seeing the cars grouping a little bit more and establishing those places, with Glavy still way back in the back after that unfortunate dust up in the beginning, and of course every other racer really solidifying their place right now, with really the competition focused between Guinness and Miranda, both continuing to place new lap best times, even improving on their qualifying times earlier. Guinness posting up a 1:27.4.
And Gaspar has lost contact with the leaders after that mistake. It snowballed into losing time corner after corner. Miranda made a small mistake in this lap somewhere, because he's dropped back to Alpha second there, but Alpha second is still incredibly close with his car, so I wouldn't count him out. But it goes to show that even if he had, in my opinion, a bit more pace, and of course Guinness is nursing a wounded car, still is not easy to make the overtake, and Miranda will have to work very, very hard. He needs to get a bit closer to begin with, and then not make any more mistakes, because you can see you cannot afford them, even if Guinness is not 100%. And you can see Gaspar dropping back. I think he will settle for third unless the guys in front make a mess out of it.
Right, keep in mind, you're not always racing against your other racers. You're also playing your own game. You're also playing for your own best time, and if you find yourself solidly in third, fourth, fifth, whatever, you can continue the race and make sure that your focus is not on beating or passing, overtaking, but rather on just consistently doing your best, making your best laps, and continually best laps being set by Guinness and Miranda up there at the top of the pack. Miranda now improving to 27.1.
Fantastic lap from Miranda. He answers to my doubts about his consistency in a couple of laps earlier when he lost time. He's getting back to his best, and he's now 0.3 of a second behind. So he's purely, squarely behind the French driver. And I think
he heard you talking about it.
Move for position could be soon. I'm sure. I know some drivers that watch the commentary. A mistake from Guinness coming out of the first chicane. This is the good chance for Miranda.
And he's gonna go for it around the outside. He's gotta do it now, and he won't be able to make it. Coming up on the chicane, has to brake too hard. A beautiful opportunity, but not meant to be. And now back out of what was, I think, less than half a tenth of a second. Now back to 0.2, 0.1, coming up on it. Miranda neck and neck, smells blood in the water after that little tiny mistake from Guinness.
And now Miranda, you can see, trying to get back. So he had the attempt, but there on the outside is incredibly difficult to make it work. So now he'll have to build the gap once again, to close the gap once again, and then try and go for it again. But we only have 5 laps left. Starting this one, lap 8 out of 12 has just begun.
That's right, over halfway through our time here on Oulton Park, Marco, and competition really just as fierce as ever. We're showing you the top three, but really just to say that though Gaspar is solidifying his place in the race, the real action, of course, continuing to be at the top of the pack between Ganez and Miranda. Whoa, what was that? Are they bumper cars for a second? It certainly looked like there was a little bit of contact there, but still maintaining basically the same interval.
Yeah, and they were incredibly close there at the hairpin, and now following each other on the backstretch. Miranda close, but not close enough to go for the move here. Good defending from the French driver, and now we will try to get stretch his legs here after, and of course we can always see a presence in the background. Caio Gaspar ready to pounce in case these guys make a mistake in these final few laps of the race.
And it absolutely could happen. If you think back to yesterday's race, we had our first opening race of Season 2 on Spa. We had incredible overtakes, changes, mistakes on the very final lap of the race. And of course, as we come up on that final lap, now only 3 more laps to go. Anything can happen. All of our racers continuing to put up absolutely incredible performances, very, very fast lap times. And Gaspar even improving on his previous lap times, although still back of the lead for now. Erwin, Villarreal, Levy, rounding out our board as we close things out here. The final moments, our racers really going to have to think, okay, if I don't take this opportunity to overtake now, I may not be in such a good position for it in the future. Time is of the essence here, closing into the second half of this lap 9.
And in this beginning of this lap number 9, fantastic couple of corners for Corentin Guinez. He has put up now 0.8 of a second over his opponent, Victor Miranda. So this could be the decisive moment of the race. If Miranda can't close the gap quickly, he could be in a bit of trouble, because once Guinez gets up to that 0.8, 1 second and a half gap, is going to be awfully tough to, even despite the damage to his car. I think it's going to be very, very hard to be caught. So let's keep an eye on the gap there, because I think this is the moment that Guinez was waiting for, putting some extra horsepower down with his right foot and creating this gap. Now 1 second as we go to 3 laps to go across the start-finish line.
That's right, coming around Old Hall corner, you can really see the maintenance, the speed of Guinez. Absolutely able to keep that top speed going around that corner. Really, really good control. And Miranda falling a little bit further and further behind. It looks like we do have a replay of that minor altercation. You know, Miranda keeps looking for these opportunities to go for these overtakes, but we're about to show you what it looks like when he tried and was unfortunately not able to make it. Here you see, oh my God, about as big a bump as you can imagine, sandwiching him down there at the end between the car and the pavement, but ultimately that led to what is now a 1.5 second lead just about for Guinez, able to maintain his pole position and prevent Miranda from overtaking.
I tell you what, I think that the problem there for Miranda was that he hit Guinez where it was already damaged, no? So for Guinez didn't make much of a difference, because the car, it didn't make much of a dent, if I may say that, because the car was already damaged for the French driver there. But now Miranda has to contend with some damage of his own, and his front end damage. A lot of the downforce of this car is created by the front end. This is basically, you can imagine this as almost like a Formula car. So you need to create as much downforce as you can, whilst the damage on Guinez is more on the bodywork. Miranda has damage on the front part of the car, where you try to put the, move and push the air wherever you prefer to get the maximum downforce possible. And now, of course, this will be problematic for the Brazilian driver. Now 1.8 seconds, 2 laps left for the 2 leaders, and I think Guinez is looking quite good for the race victory.
Right. Just got to keep it calm, cool, copacetic coming into our final lap of the race. Guinez establishing dominance, leading the pack all by himself. Just has to keep it together, and he's been able to do that for another 11 laps. So no reason to expect anything less from Guinez up at the top. Miranda, though, continuing to best himself with better and better laps. Every single lap that we do have executed, and that means that we are coming up on the final moments of this race, Marco.
Yes, and you can see from the graphics on the top left, these are the fastest laps of the race overall. And so far, Victor Miranda will bring home the bonus points. I don't think that Guinness will be able to improve on that lap time, given his damage, given the fact that he's basically trying to manage the final lap of the race, which begins right now. So Miranda, in the end, I would be happy if I was him, second place and fastest lap of the race. Not a bad deal to come out of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. That pretty much just makes up for the placement difference in points when you're taking home that the fastest lap time. So, coming through our final lap, just heading around the back stretch, and we'll be able to close this out in what looks to be a fairly well-established position here. Villarreal, unfortunately, down there towards the bottom of our first race now, able to improve, still second to last, but that is still a 5th place finish, and according to the points totals, that is not bad as far as taking home those points, stacking them up over the course of the race, heading through one of our final chicanes here. Guinness about to close through the checkered flag. Looks like coming up, we've got a little bit of a replay from the crash there towards the back. You might have been paying too much attention towards the top and not noticed some of those times increasing towards the end. Let's take a look coming around the chicane, and does he cut it short? Actually, just a little bit too much grass, and that will spin him around and take him really even farther out of contention. Final times coming through for Guinness and Miranda. That's right. We just both told you the same information at the same time. Good job, Marco.
Oh, what a race. I mean, the battle was amazing. The gap in the end. And Guinness at the last, that's why I'm here to provide you with false information, because at the last possible moment, Corentin Guinness gets the fastest lap of the race away from Victor Miranda and gets, the full treasure, all of the booty from this race. It goes to Corentin Guinness.
He certainly did. He also got a little bit of a tap on the booty there, as we saw in the replay. But Guinness taking that away just goes to show you cannot let up the pressure at any moment. You're not just playing for the first place. You also have to get that. You also have to consider the fastest lap of the race, and really impressive to see Guinness not becoming complacent there at the front of the pack, continuing to set even faster and faster times. And that's going to do it for our second race of the day. The Guinness, Miranda, Gaspar, Perwin, Villarreal, and Levy rounding out 6th place for our top 6 final placements for our trip out on to Oulton Park. Well, what do you think of today's races, Marco? You've been alongside me for our first time ever, but I don't think that despite our growing pains, our ups and downs together, ended a pretty exciting first day of races, rounding things out with some really, really impressive scenes there on Oulton Park.
Yeah, this race was so good, and the fight for the victory until the end was amazing. Then when the drivers got apart a little bit from each other, we still had the fastest lap situation to get sorted out, and Guinness with a fantastic final lap. As always, what you get with me is strategic errors and bad readings of the race. And I told you he was not going to get the fastest lap of the race. He proved me wrong, of course, and he got it with a fantastic final lap, despite the damage, and so well-deserved. He gets all the points for the victory and the fastest lap, but what a battle with him and Miranda, both in Zolder and at Oulton Park.
Yeah, Marco just trying to make me look good, of course, by attempting, though unfortunately unsuccessfully, to make even more mistakes than I did today. But of course, big thanks to Marco for his excellence in commentary, and of course, big thanks to not only our racers, fantastic though they may be, but also to our viewers. If you guys came out and watched today's stream, make sure to get out there, tell your friends, spread the word on social media about AMX Season 2. We got a lot more races coming your way. We're 90 minus 4 races through Season 2. So there's a lot of points, a lot of time, a lot of races, cars, tracks, excitement out there left to play. So if you want to become a part of the action, you want to see your name, your livery, your car up on the big screen, make sure to head on over to amxrace.com where you can sign up for free. $5, $20, whatever your level of commitment is, they're all available for you to race on amxrace.com. So head over there, join our Discord. You can interact with our community, and look forward to seeing you in one of our next races as well. I'll be back at some point, as will Marco, so you'll get a chance to see our shining faces, and of course, maybe finally a big thanks to the shining faces you won't see, our production team behind the scenes. Big thanks to them as well. We will see you back here again tomorrow for even more action from AMX Season 2. And so on behalf of myself and Marco and all of us here at AMX Racing, thanks for watching. See you back here tomorrow.